Hey, welcome to Crocker and Cohn. That's Eric Crocker. I'm Grant Crone, apparently. Every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific. It's a very tumultuous time in Ninerland, but we're trying to look forward and be positive. But before we do, can we just look back for a second? Like way, way, way back. I got to take us back to 2021 just to be a jerk. And my question right out the gate for you and for Eric, for everyone, who drafted Trey Lance?
That's a great question, and we've heard a lot of different takes on it. Kyle Shanahan being talked into drafting Trey Lance and whatnot. Because I won't act like I'm this guy with all kind of sources or anything like that.
But I have no idea. I don't know. Yeah. I have no sources on this.
Yeah. I do have buddies that have randomly come across people, and I won't say a name here, but I had a buddy that put on a pro day for a quarterback who used to play at Kentucky, and Kentucky let him do his pro day at Kentucky.
Okay.
All right. So my guy trained this quarterback, worked with him, got him prepared for the pro day, and put on his pro day. So at Kentucky's pro day, my guy is on the field, instructing all the throws, et cetera, the routes and whatnot. We also had a conversation with the offensive coordinator over there at Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
Which happens to be Rich Garoppolo. And, from everything that I've been told, I think I can talk about this stuff now because I think it's just out there, right? And I think it's most people know Garoppolo just did not want Trey Lance. Yeah. And the conversation that I've had with my buddy confirms that.
Yeah.
But the part that was very intriguing to me, and this is kind of why I'm setting this up, there were people that actually tried to talk Kyle Shanahan out of drafting Trey Lance. And that was his guy.
Wow.
So as far as Kyle being talked into it, again, at what point, I don't know. I mean, people don't think about this part of it, right? But like coaches, they don't sit there throughout the year and watch all these prospects and just, I'm just watching film. I'm a head coach of the 49ers, but I'm watching film on all these prospects, right?
No.
Like that's not going on at all. It's not until the offseason they start diving into, they get a list of guys and they start watching things, right? And I think right away it was very clear that Mac Jones was able to do a lot of the things that Kyle Shanahan probably would like. And I think
Lance grew on him.
Right. So I think along the lines or along, that time frame of the draft and whatnot, maybe somebody would say, hey, check out this kid from North Dakota State. He's probably not on your radar at all because he didn't even play last season. Right. And he plays at North Dakota State. So you probably never heard of him. But take a look at him.
Yeah.
And I think
whereas you probably see Mac Jones on television because he was in the national championship.
We just watched him in the national championship playoffs. Yeah. So you know that.
You know who Mac Jones is.
But you don't know who Trey Lance is. Yeah. And I think there's a scenario where he saw Trey Lance, he watched it, he saw some things that he really liked, some things where it's like, oh, okay, I can improve on this, or he needs to improve on these different things. And then once he met him, it's like, okay. And I think from that standpoint, maybe he was swayed into drafting him, but I don't think it was people just be like, hey man, you got to draft Trey Lance, don't draft Mac Jones. I don't think that happened at all.
I agree. I think it might have been like, you said use the verb swayed. That's how I would think. Like he liked Mac Jones, he knew Mac Jones, he got to know Trey Lance, and probably there were Lance advocates in the organization, and he got swayed. Let me just put out a scenario. Do you know why I'm asking you this question? Do you know what makes me ask you this question?
No.
I mean, just the fact that how Kyle used Trey this year.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Gotcha. It's like that. It's like makes me think, ooh, did you really want Trey? Because you were pretty reckless with how you used him. So let me go back. And this is just why I'm putting pieces together. I don't know anything. 2020, they just lose the Super Bowl. Tom Brady inquires. They're like, nah, we don't want you. So then Brady wins the Super Bowl. Jimmy gets hurt. Rough year. They're embarrassed. What do? Kyle has said, he went on that Flying Coach podcast with McVay and was like, yeah, I was looking at Stafford. I was looking at his film and I was going to talk to him, but you beat me to the punch. So they were thinking about Stafford. And then it's been confirmed that they inquired about Rodgers. I mean, Shanahan ruined his friendship with LaFleur over this Rodgers thing. So they tried Rodgers. That didn't work out. And then it seemed like the fallback.
No, there was one other guy too that they looked into.
Watson?
Deshaun Watson.
Okay. Yeah. So there were 3 vets that they were looking into. None of them worked out. And then the fallback was a rookie. So they trade up and they don't even know who they want yet. And it's been reported it was Mac and Trey. And there was so much blowback. First of all, the reporters that know Kyle the best said Mac the loudest. There was so much blowback from the fan base and me. It just felt like, is it possible? I wonder, Did Jed go to have a big meeting and was like, look, we're not going to do Mac? I don't know. We're not going to do Mac. Is there anyone else we like as much as Mac? And Kyle's like, yeah, I like Trey. It just kind of feels like someone's like, was it Adam Peters that liked Trey Lance? Was it Jed? You said swayed. It feels like Kyle almost got talked into it and then lost confidence in it. Just the way he used Trey didn't strike me as someone who was ever 100% all in with that. The way Harbaugh was with Kaepernick, for example.
I don't know. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I definitely could see that being the case, but
it's tough.
To me, it feels like you watch the 49ers, you watch how the 49ers have lost some of these playoff games, right? When you get to the biggest moments and what Jimmy Garoppolo is capable of doing and what he's not. And I think what he is a solid quarterback. You're going to win games with him, but you also understand that he has these different limitations. And it looked to me like a coach who eventually wanted to be able to overcome that. Like, do I always have to be perfect? Right. Or even if let's say I feel like I am perfect, but maybe this guy can't do everything I want him to do, can I find someone that can expand on the things that we currently do now? And I do believe, and I think even Trey Lance has been able to show that now. Is it consistent? No. And I think that's the part of the game he has to work towards. But even in the short time we've seen him play, he has done everything that showed you, hey, this is why you draft me. Right? I can move. I can make plays with my legs. I'm throwing the ball down the field. I'm throwing outside the numbers. I'm doing these things, make the special layer throw. The inconsistent part is what drives people crazy. And maybe it could drive Kyle Shanahan crazy, but you can work towards that. But at least he has the ability. When you watch Jimmy Garoppolo, those type of things, it's kind of a struggle on top of not being the most I know the numbers say he's like super efficient, like as far as like completion percentage. But when you just watch him, like there's a lot of these like weird misses, overthrows, and then every quarterback has misses, but do you have the ability to overcome those misses? And then that's the tough spot. So I think it was more so of just trying to can I figure out a way to get better from there? And there's a risk with that.
When Kyle and the Niners drafted Trey, I think a lot of people were excited because they thought, okay, this is Kyle's guy, and this represents a change in offensive philosophy, to your point. He doesn't just want a quarterback who can execute a system. He wants a quarterback who can go above and beyond, and that's why they didn't take Mac, because Mac is just another system quarterback who can execute it very well. Again, after watching Trey, do I feel like he really wanted to change his system? I mean, I was thinking that Trey was brought in here to push the ball down the field like they did in Atlanta, not to run 13 times a game like Tim Tebow. But that's what he ended up doing. And they had some downfield throws, but he never actually attempted a pass to Danny Gray. To me, it's a little strange. I think what you said, that offensive philosophy shift that we were all expecting, I'm not sure it happened. And now they're back to Jimmy G.
So I don't think we never really got to see it, see him expand on it, right? Like we're talking about a guy who, and we talk about Trey Lance, like he's played a ton of games for the 49ers, but I mean, it's four starts. Now, again, they watch him in practice, et cetera, but just in the sense of being able to build off of what he does well, I don't think they were to that point yet. So I do think there's a scenario by, if he made it to week 15, 16, 17, where all of a sudden you start to see a little bit more of an open offense, as opposed to what we saw early on, which is more, hey, let's do things that are kind of safe. We're going to run. We're going to do some quarterback powers. We're going to do some read options. We're going to do some bootlegs, and things a little bit more safer, not too crazy. But I just think that's where he kind of was in his development.
You think it's possible that he called such a run-heavy game plan against Seattle because he thought it was going to rain harder? I don't know, because they were throwing more in Chicago.
Well, they didn't really throw more until the tsunami happened, and it was like they had to, right? Because if you remember, heading into the fourth quarter, Trey Lance had only attempted 14 passes.
Yeah.
What do you think? 8 of 14, 9 of 14. So it was 9 of 15. It wasn't until the tsunami came where it's like, damn, now we got to try to throw it. And it's like, well, we can't throw in this. And I think that was a bigger issue. But in the sense of the philosophy, they were running the rock a lot. They started out the jump. They did some stuff to get guys on the edge. Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. Then, okay, let me hit you with a crosser off of a play fake, right? Yeah. So I think they were playing the pass off of the run and kind of building on that until it was like, damn, we got to throw the ball. And I don't think they wanted to do that. And I don't think Kyle ever wanted to do that. Right now, again, with where Lance is in his development, like, we're going to throw the ball 30 times a game willingly. I don't think that's the case.
I also don't think Kyle wants to use a quarterback the way he used Lance. I don't think he wants to run a quarterback between the tackles. I think he felt he had to. And the tip-off for me is he never, ever brought in another mobile quarterback. if you were really having an offensive shift, usually you say you have a similar quarterback backing him up, so you don't have to change your offense. We all expected Tyrod Taylor to be the backup this year, but Nate Sudfeld, Brock Purdy, Kurt Bankert. I mean, I don't see an offensive philosophy shift. I just feel like Trey is such a black sheep here, to use a strange mixed metaphor. But you know what I'm saying?
Well,
like, he's like, how did you get here, man?
I think he's viewed more like, and we say these different names and throw out these different guys, but if you kind of look at Dak Prescott and how he's utilized with the Dallas Cowboys, he has similar mobility, right? He's not the fastest of guys, but he can make a play with his legs here and there. But, you know, Dak Prescott, he's a passing, he's going to throw the ball. But if you look at Dak Prescott early on with the Dallas Cowboys, or even if you go back to Mississippi State, he ran the ball more than early on. Remember, they just relied that rookie year heavily on
no doubt
Ezekiel Elliott. We are handing the ball off to Ezekiel Elliott 40 times a game if we can. And they gradually kind of built on that to where now, you know, Dak Prescott is somebody who can, if he throws the ball 40 times, you're still comfortable with that. But that wasn't Dak early on, whether it was year one or even year two. He was much more efficient year one. Year two, he lost Ezekiel Elliott. He had some injuries to the offensive line, Tyron Smith, some of those guys, and you saw a dip in his production and his play. And then now, obviously, again, you've seen as far as development goes, and it's tough because the 49ers have high expectations, but Dak Prescott's development from year two to what he is now, and not that last game he played, that was terrible, but for the most part, what Dak is now, I mean, he could throw for 5,000 yards, and that wouldn't surprise anybody.
No, I mean, if Trey Lance could become Dak Prescott in a few years, that would be great. Phenomenal. Double B Studio says Crone heads. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I took Crocker and Cohn together and made Crone. Koba Works says, are you going to Denver? Would love to meet y'all. I'm going Saturday morning. You going? I'm
not going, man. I got, you know what I'm saying? I got this gym I pay for, and it's kind of put a damper on some of my travel plans.
Nah, if you had to pick between going to Chicago or Denver, I think you made the right choice. Not that I've been to Denver, but I just have a feeling it's going to be, I don't know. I'm curious.
I hear Denver's dope, though. I'm not going to lie. I hear Denver's dope. Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm only going to be there for Saturday. We'll see. Is Trey ruled out regardless if he heals before the season is over? That's another reason I asked like, Kyle's just shutting him down. He just seems kind of eager to have Jimmy Garoppolo back.
Well,
he's
so
like
one thing Kyle can, well, one, he probably is tired of, and it's like, Kyle, you created this. He's probably tired of just dealing with that, and it's just like, oh man, it just feels good to just have one guy, like, cool, we'll do this for the rest of the season, and then deal with everything else afterwards. But
because if he says he might come back, and
what he's told,
it's a topic all year, right?
Yeah,
if he says
I think as far as the injuries and stuff goes, I think it's easy for him to say right now, nah, Trey's done for the season, he won't come back. But then come week 14, 15, depending on how things look, he can say, well, you know what? He recovered much faster than we thought. Initially, they told me he would not be able to play, even though there were reports. But now he's looking good. He's moving around. He's throwing the ball. There's a chance that we open up a window for him to play. Yeah, I could see that potentially happen, but I give it like a 20% chance.
Yep. Double B Studio says, what I don't understand is Trey can play like Jimmy and Mac Jones system and more with the deep ball, and he runs. Why is Kyle messing around? Yeah, I guess.
It gives him more. I mean, when you drafted him, you drafted the total package, right, of someone who can do all these things. So, I mean, they're utilizing the run game. And I heard Kyle Juszczyk on the radio talk about running the ball with your quarterback. And he said, you know, he's a math major at Harvard and all that. And he talked about flipping a coin. And he says, every time you flip a coin, you have a 50-50 chance. Like, those odds do not change. You have a 50-50 chance of getting heads or tails, right? Every time you flip a coin. Now, you can flip a coin and it land on heads 10 times straight, but even then, on that 11th try, you still have a 50-50 chance of hitting tails. So he said that's kind of like the run game where, you know, there's no wear and tear in the sense of like, oh, your ankle breaking, because that's what happened. It was his ankle that broke.
Right.
Whereas like, oh, you know, you just know on one play. It's kind of a fluke. That's essentially what he basically said. It was more of a fluke.
Of course.
Something that you can count on happening.
It's not like if I run counter bash and Trey Lance keeps it, there's an 87% chance he's going to break his ankle. Like, of course not. Of course not.
So that was just how he viewed it. So maybe Kyle, in the sense of calling his plays, even though we know the more you run them, just the more you open it up for him to potentially get hurt. But maybe Kyle's thinking like, now I'm calling the play because I'm calling the play, not because I think that it can potentially hurt him.
Of course. I mean, I think that's my issue is like, he's calling plays like it's Madden. Like, he's not even thinking about that stuff. Like, it's just, what's the best call? Okay, but you got to think big picture. What about risk reward? I mean, obviously. I mean, there's a reason running backs get hurt so much, and you're going to use your quarterback like one. Hold on. This guy says, J55 says, do you honestly believe that Kyle did not want Trey as QB1? Jimmy is going to get the Niners to the playoffs, and then they will stack the line and cover the middle, another year of one and done. I know it's weird, right? Like, why would he name him the starter if he didn't want him to be the starter? I don't understand what's going on in the organization. Did he feel pressure? Jed said he could sit him for 2 years. That's what I don't understand. Jed
said he could sit him for 2 years if Jimmy is playing at an MVP level.
That's true. That's a good point. Maybe there was some pressure from the organization, because if Kyle felt he was ready, then that's not how you would use him. And if that's how you have to use him, then I don't think he's ready. And better to just have him on the bench than to keep pounding him between the tackles and see what happens. I just want to say, I said it in training camp when they started installing the triple option. I said they're going to run him into the ground. And I was picking the Niners to miss the playoffs, but then they kept Jimmy, and I was thinking, good, now I didn't think he was going to break his ankle. I thought he'd miss a few games, playing like this. And I thought, well, okay, well, now they'll be fine. Jimmy can come in, they'll win those games, and then Trey will come back. But I was like, this is going to he's going to get hurt. He's going to get run into the ground. I feel like this was kind of predictable. No one thought he would snap his ankle. That's a freak accident. But dude, what do you think's going to happen? Running backs get hurt doing that. He's a quarterback who's 6'4" and never done this really before.
Yeah, and I think, right now, if I had to say, like, man, the injury tag, right? Like, injury prone. And I think people would be fair to say that, right? I mean, he started,
4 games.
4 games.
2 injuries.
And he's been hurt twice.
Yeah.
But I think there is, like, this one thing that's kind of looming in that is both times he's been hurt. I mean, he ran 16 times in one game, and he ran 10 the other. So would he be as injury prone if he just didn't run as much? Right. With it. I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but I think running him less would probably be a little bit more ideal moving forward.
Yeah, it just seems like if he didn't play Trey this year, the narrative is, oh, well, Kyle's not developing him. What's going on with Trey? But if you play him and you run him and he gets hurt, people say, oh, well, freak accident. Football happens. Guys get hurt. Kyle's doing a great job. Even if he may or may not be. I don't know. David says, what baffles me the most about running Trey so much is the fact that the first 2 games were the easier games to get Trey more, to get him more like acclimated, not antiquated, but acclimated as a thrower. Yeah, fair. Although it did kind of suck that it was raining in both games. Yeah. Josue Torres says GTA 6 leaked. Oh, snap. Is that true?
I don't play video games anymore. So I need to. I got the new Xbox in there. I bought it to play Madden, and I just got so busy with podcasting, training athletes, and it's like, damn, it's crazy. You have kids in high school, right? Or what? Yeah. See, that's a great excuse to play video games. Once I get kids, once my kid's like 2 years old, I'm like, you trying to play GTA? What's up? It's weird that I had to think about that when you said that. Like, you got kids in high school, right? And it's like, damn, I do.
Yeah, you do. Flav says, haven't heard anyone talk about Brian Griese or Jimmy Garoppolo. Do you think they're a good fit? Any reason to think he can help Jimmy Garoppolo have his best year?
I think he'd be fine, man. Quarterback coaches are just an extension of kind of the offensive head coach or the play caller, I mean.
Yeah.
So it's not, they're not doing a whole lot of working, mechanics and stuff like that. Like, I just saw somebody in the chat like, oh, Trey worked on his mechanics in the offseason, and he kind of reverted back to some of the things he did before. I don't know about that. When you listen to some of the things that guys worked on with him, and I had Quincy Avery on my YouTube channel last night, talked to him. I talked to Greg, who had talked to the QB3, whatever. But everybody worked on, like, his front stride, which is quickening up his hands, not so much changing, like, a throwing motion. So I think a lot of people are saying, oh, man, like, the throwing motion looks the same. He's reverting back to what he used to. Well, nobody tried to change that. They just try to quicken his hands by quickening that front overstride or whatever the hell they be talking about.
French Toast says, went to the game Sunday to see Lance break out. He broke his leg in my heart instead. Sorry, French Toast. Sean O'Leary says, I live in Chicago. Denver is better. Oh, okay. Well, I'm excited then. That'll be fun. Wow. Josh Oliva says, no chance Trey plays this season, even if healthy. Double exclamation point. Okay. F.U. Jobu says, here's $5 because you got Kay Adams talking about you on her show. Schraig's talking too, but he doesn't earn you $5 of my dollars. Man, hella people come to Kyle's defense, man. It's like, okay, all right. I'm glad that he has a bunch of allies. That's great. Good. His feelings really matter. I was thinking about Trey's, but everyone's talking about Kyle's feelings. That's cool. Mr. Tall says, what do I get for my membership, BT Dub? I don't know. I think you get to be like I forget. Yeah, I don't know. Let me get back to you. Hold on. BP says, Kyle Shanahan is a good play designer, but bad caller, i.e. after the long Debo run, he runs again 3 times straight. Why not take a pass in the end zone after a long run?
I think Kyle Shanahan is really good at what he does. And, yeah, I don't know.
Fair enough. Hey man, you don't have to come on my show and crap on Kyle Shanahan. I'm not telling you to do that.
Yeah, I think he's a good play caller. I think he's a good play designer. I think he does a really good job of setting up things. Yeah, no, I think he's good. I think
fair enough. Good. Alex Rock said this team's win so often feels like losses. Cowboys and Packers 2021, Seahawks last week, yet they behave like champions. I don't get it. That's kind of been their culture since 2019. They've had, it's been a very tight group. It's been kind of the similar group for 4 years, and they think they're the best team in the league, even though they haven't proven it yet. But they just need one more chance. This is it.
But okay, we say that, but everybody is, there's Super Bowl, this Super Bowl team, Super Bowl roster. You got to win right now. Got to win right now. So like, how can we in the same sentence, like, and again, I'm not saying you or the commenter, but how can we get on them about feeling like they are a championship caliber team when everyone and their mom is mad at them if they don't win the Super Bowl? So how do you want them to behave? Like, how do you want them to act? I guess they got it. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you got to act like champion. You fake it till you make it. There we go.
Fair enough. I like that. That's a good way to look at it. Jeffrey says, do you guys think Kyle isn't the best play calling adjustments during game? What could his issue be when he just can't adjust mid-late game? Well, I mean, he just won 27-7. So it felt like that week one. It may not be that he's not I don't know. He has a very particular offensive system. Maybe teams figure it out at a certain point. I don't know. I mean, he doesn't throw the ball down the field anymore. It's all about running and yards after the catch. I mean, maybe sometimes he just gets beat. I don't know. What do you think?
I think if he got, I don't want to say.
I don't know.
But yeah.
What? All right. Flav says if Kyle didn't think he was ready, he wouldn't put him in. But also, if Kyle truly believed he was ready, why does everything other than playing him suggest he doesn't trust him at all? It's mind-boggling. Yeah, that's why I started the show with this. I want to get back to the show. Do you have anything to say to Flav here? It is mind-boggling.
I think that realistically, you have to figure out a way. Like, it's almost going to be like a dog chasing his tail if he just doesn't play. So even though he's not quite ready, and I always ask that question when people are like, Trey Lance is not ready. And I always ask, like, what does it mean to not be ready? Like, are you saying he's not ready to win a championship? Or are you saying he's just not ready to, like, start a football game? Because those are two different things. And if you say he's not ready to win a championship, well, how do you get him ready for that? And I think you just have to play him. So that's just kind of my thoughts on that. That's tough, though, because everybody else, Kyle said something very key. I think it was on the Tim Kawakami podcast. And he said, I talk to our players about what to expect right now, with Trey Lance, and they need to pick him up, et cetera. And I hope that the fans are patient with him. So basically saying, like, I understand he's not up to wherever it is that we want him to be at. Mm-hmm. But let's be patient with getting him there and give him the same time that you gave other guys, including guys like Jimmy Garoppolo. Again, It is tough because championship, that's all you hear. But for him, it's like, well, how do I get this guy ready to do that? Well, we got to play him. And he's got to go through different adversities. And other guys have had the opportunities to do that. And we just hope that you give Trey that same. So I think that was his thought process with starting him, although maybe not feeling like he 100% trusts him. Why would
you said earlier, like Jed said it would be cool to sit Trey for 2 years if Jimmy was playing at an MVP level. Well, he wasn't. If it's possible that there was some pressure from ownership to play the guy they invested in, I think what we've seen is that Kyle is being strategic here with the Niners. Like, he saw what Harbaugh did. And he saw if you, like, go head to head with Jed as the head coach, he'll fire you even if you have a winning record. Kyle doesn't have a winning record. Right. So I think Kyle, I mean, he runs the organization. I'm sure he could veto anyone if he wanted to, John, whoever. I don't think he acts that way with Jed. I think he's respectful to Jed, which is smart and strategic. So if Jed says, hey, man, I don't want to take Mac, I think Kyle's not going to be like, it's my team. Like Harbaugh might. You know what I'm saying? I think Jed might.
For sure.
He would. But Kyle might be like, okay, all right. And then, do what he's done. I wonder. It just seems like Kyle's much smarter. And if Jed inserts himself, Kyle probably won't challenge it. But I have no idea that any of that stuff happened. It's just theories to try to make sense of a mind-boggling situation, as Flav put it. All right. I got another question for you. Is Danny Gray in the doghouse? So far, 7 snaps this season. No catches. He looked good in the preseason. What's up?
No, Danny Gray is not in the doghouse. this is where Danny Gray is in his development. And I talked about it. I believe I talked about it on here where I felt like, hey, he needs to improve at XYZ because I saw it on his college film. Now, that's not saying he can't become more. But at that point in his development, I thought he lacked in a lot of key areas. And then when you couple that with going over to Kyle Shanahan's offense, which is extremely difficult for a young receiver, especially when you come from an offense where you don't huddle up. You usually look to the sideline. You got one route. Like, it's a tough transition into Kyle Shanahan's offense. So I don't think he's in the doghouse. I just don't think he's ready to maybe produce or contribute more than Debo, Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, Ray McCloud.
Sure. I got my eye on this situation because to me it feels like they drafted Danny Gray for Trey. And we're talking about this like offensive philosophy switch, not just the 11-on-11 run game zone read stuff, like going down the field with a strong arm quarterback that isn't Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, Danny Gray is wasted on Jimmy Garoppolo unless he wants to start throwing the ball down the field. I thought it was for Trey, and then now he's not really. I mean, he hasn't gotten used that way. I understand he's not a complete receiver. There's a lot he needs to improve on, but in the meantime, you could give him a deep shot once in a while. But it doesn't seem like Kyle's interested in that. And I just don't see this offensive philosophy shift that we were all expecting, which is kind of weird.
I would have thought, because, I've watched a lot of Kyle Shanahan's. We all have, right?
Yeah.
And he does things where he runs clear outs.
Yeah.
And I would, at the very least, and I thought he could at least excel on this, where we are going to run you straight up the seam, and you're going to clear it out. If you pull coverage, great. That opens it up for our guys underneath. If you don't pull coverage, that means we have a one-on-one shot with you vertically, and we're going to take that shot. And I at the very least thought we would see that. Now, I didn't go back and watch all 22. There could be one of his 7 snaps where he does do that, and maybe Jimmy just doesn't throw it, right? Like, there is a scenario where that happened. But I'd say right now he's kind of limited with what he excels at. And I was talking to people, and they're like, Croc, you're wrong. You just hate on Danny Gray. You hate him. You hate him. And I'm like, dude, no, I don't. I'm just telling you what I see. And I see somebody who struggled to get off press versus, solid competition in college. Yeah. I saw someone that was really bad at the top of his routes, needed to work on that and playing with more high-end controlled speed. Yeah. And if he was going to win in an area, it would be vertical. And I think when you watch where he won vertically in preseason, right, because he caught 2 goal routes, right? Did he catch 2? 1. Yeah. I know he caught the one Packers. Why am I missing on one? Anyways, where he can get guys is if you're off coverage. Oh, it was Patrick Peterson Vikings practice. Mm-hmm. So if you're playing off coverage against someone who can run as fast, if you can't turn around, which off coverage is hard, especially if you have no help. That's why I was so impressed with what Hufanga did against Tyler Lockett in the slot. But if you're playing off coverage against a guy like that and he's screaming and he runs 4.3, like, it's tough. And he can excel at that. But if you just say, hey, we're just going to play press against Danny Gray, I think that's an area where he definitely needs to improve. So, he was a late 3rd round pick. Clearly, he had these things that he potentially needed to work through. Maybe it takes another, the rest of the season, maybe in the offseason to really kind of grasp the aspect of how to win at the NFL level. But I don't think he's in the doghouse. I just don't think he's good enough yet. I guess that's the best way to say it.
I just, when they drafted him, I felt like my instinct was, oh, this is a Kyle pick. This is a Kyle guy. Like Ayuk, this is who he wanted. But then I look back and, he's not playing right now. And it's kind of fallen in the other category of people like Lance and Sermon, who got here and Kyle was strangely lukewarm on right away. And you're thinking, well, okay, well, maybe this is just a developmental curve, or maybe Kyle doesn't like him. I don't understand. To me, Trey Sermon and Danny Gray were here for Lance. There was supposed to be a new offense that was going to go a new direction, and it's not here. It's not here at all. Either Kyle's resisting, or the guys got hurt, or it's just didn't pan out. But I almost want to ask, like, who drafted Danny Gray? Was it Adam Peters? Was it Kyle?
Here's the thing, what I'm saying? Man, and we talk about some of the guys that you just mentioned, and on a bad team, it wouldn't matter, right? Like, you could just throw those guys out there. Kyle talked about it last year. Like, I'm not just going to play guys just to play them because we drafted them or et cetera. Like, when it comes to getting guys the reps that they need on field and that experience, like, we would have to be losing. And that was kind of his mindset. And that's why some of the young guys didn't play. Well, when you're on a team, let's say Jacksonville Jaguars, you have the opportunity to just go out there and work through your struggles. Right. Whether you're a quarterback, whether you're a receiver, whatever you are. And on this team, because it's so good, You just don't have that opportunity. So a guy like Danny Gray, who would play no matter what on some of these other teams and at least be out there on the field, you just don't get that opportunity against with the 49ers.
And that's why I feel like the Niners were the worst situation possible for Trey Lance. Everyone said it was a great situation. In a way it was. But as you just said, he was never, ever going to be given an opportunity to work through his growing pains and struggles, which were always going to be there. He's a project.
It would have been a great situation if he would have played coming off of a 6-win season and just whatever you get from him, great. But going to the NFC Championship game was the worst thing. I think that was more so than where he got drafted. It was going to the NFC Championship game and then having to follow that up. That was the worst thing.
That's a good call. It would have been much easier last year, straight up. Big Tone 707 says random, but does a knowledge of a plays in high level football make you any better at Madden, or can you still get beat by some guy spamming play action?
You can still get beat by somebody that is like, cheese. That's what they call it, right? Like doing the cheesy plays. So.
Oh, really?
You can still get beat by that.
I stopped playing Madden in 04 when Michael Vick was the greatest player of all time. All you had to do was go 5 wide, Madden 04, be the Falcons, and just scramble around. And it was impossible to stop that. Get outside the pocket, throw with Vic. That's what
it's not as simple as that anymore, but it definitely helps. I mean, they've done some things to where it's still hard to kind of run around with like Lamar Jackson.
Oh, okay. Because back then, like Michael Vick was a cheat code in Madden 04. Mr. Tall says, I see my star now. I'm still finding it hard not to be angry at the team's reaction to after the injury. I feel you, man. It's a very and you heard Juszczyk yesterday. He was prepared. He had a whole different statement, really a whole different attitude, but not that he had the wrong attitude after the game, but he realized that it's very emotional and people want him to be precise, and he was precise with his emotion. Anyway, CT Law says, we all have different opinions. The new term right now is Jimmy G revenge tour. Oh my God, I don't want to hear that anymore. Kyle spit it in Super Bowl, not Jimmy's fault, by the way. Up 10, Jimmy did his job. USA loves the underdog.
Jimmy didn't do his job. Like you got to make a play, right? Like the head coach, and he can do so much and everything. And when it doesn't go well, like yes, he's going to take the blame. Whether it's Atlanta, whether it's Kansas City, whatever, LA Rams game, whatever it is, he's going to take the blame for that. But at the end of the day, bro, when I'm not able to be perfect, and when I'm not able to be that perfect play call that you need, I need my quarterback. Can you just make a play for me? When it was 3rd and 15. And they ran the wasp play, which was okay, whatever. But it still took Mahomes dropping back 30 yards, throwing it to a spot 60 yards downfield to an elite Tyreek Hill. Like, they had to do it. If it's not for that play, 49ers win the Super Bowl, right? But it's just having a quarterback that can overcome, like, the adversity that's in his face. Where when the 49ers had the same opportunities, you got Jimmy Garoppolo, who throws a pass, it gets batted down. I'm not saying batted down passes by Chris Jones is his fault, but it's his fault when he can't move or slide, and everything has to be timing and rhythm. And if it's not, then it's Kyle Shanahan's fault, etc. Like the guy's open, like so. Yeah, I hear what they're saying, but now like I need my quarterback to make a play, like and they didn't do it.
Said like Jimmy did his job. No, you know who did his job? Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes did his job.
He did his job because he won the Super Bowl. Double B Studio says, so all of Trey's work was for passing and they ran him. LOL, Kyle's good, but not at developing quarterbacks. And it's obvious. Rodgers next year, Trey sits. They better get Rodgers because really the only quarterback that Kyle has made better is Matt Ryan, in my opinion.
And I don't even know if he made him better.
He was already great. Not great.
Yeah, he was already throwing for 4,500 yards. And then it's like, all right, we're going to really kind of just take this offense to the next level. But he was already a really good quarterback.
I mean, Kyle's so focused on running the ball. And that's another thing. Like, why is he so focused on running the ball? When he was in Atlanta, that was a beautifully balanced offense. His Atlanta offense was perfect. Not perfect, but it was freaking great. And then it fell apart because he couldn't run the ball in the second half. He lost 28. He had 28-3. And now it's like he's on like a 6-year mission to prove I can run the ball. I can run the ball. Look at my running game. It's like, no, dude, can you just bring back the Atlanta offense? That was money.
It was, and people forget certain situations in that game, man. He schemed up. Wide open throw, your running back whiffs on a block, quarterback gets hit, they're running back for a touchdown. That last drive by Atlanta before end of regulation really should have been a touchdown or points. It should have been points. They threw the ball, they picked up enough yards, they're in field goal range, but they called holding on the offense.
Oh yeah.
And it brought them back, and then there was like a sack. Things happen, man. When you're playing, when we're talking about Super Bowl, NFC Championship, AFC, whatever. This is great on great. Great coaching, great players versus great coaching, great players. Yeah. And the room for error is very small from everyone.
Yeah.
And at some point, it's like my players just got to kind of execute and overcome certain adversity because this team is going to bring it. That's why they're in this game. And that's why you go out and you try to get your quarterback that can do more. I don't understand why that logic, people don't understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeffrey Ray says pressure from veterans ready to win the Super Bowl is more of a factor than media or fans. The team is ready now and they trust Jimmy more. It was intense pressure. Again, that was tough for Trey. I don't think he was ever really in a position to succeed. I don't think it's a coincidence that his best play of the offseason was in minicamp and OTAs when Jimmy wasn't there. He was so confident. Thought it was his team. Little did he know that it was not. Jeffrey Ray, veterans windows that close if Jimmy can't win the Super Bowl. Yeah, I think when Trey becomes a starter in this team, I think certain vets can't be on this team anymore, man. I think they got to really give it to – I feel like it's a generational divide in this locker room. Old guys that were in the Super Bowl with Jimmy and young guys that weren't. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I mean, they could have just – no, I'm not going to say that.
They could have. Yeah. How does Burford and Banks improve decline with Jimmy Garoppolo as quarterback? Well, ball should come out quicker, but he's not moving. So I do think he got sacked a little bit more than Trey last year. So we'll see. Maybe the sacks go up. Christina, thank you very much. That's very generous. Josh, Brady is already on the hot seat with Giselle. Might as well do one more with the Niners. It's true. We really don't know what Brady's end game is here. Maybe he's just going to get divorced. All right. Question for you. Does Kyle Shanahan's system make Jimmy Garoppolo better or worse? I know it kind of sounds like a stupid question because we always assumed it made him better. But Jimmy came out after the game yesterday and said something that caught my ear. He said, felt like 2017 when I didn't really know the system and I was just running around making plays. What do you think? Does Jimmy benefit from this system or no?
I think everybody can benefit from the system, but I do think the micromanagement of Kyle Shanahan makes it tough to play the quarterback position. Yeah. And if you don't do things to a T with how he kind of wants you to do it, you know, it's hard because he does dial up stuff to where it's like, yeah, you should be successful.
Yeah.
But mentally, I think there can kind of be this like stranglehold on the quarterback and kind of the pressure to make the read exactly how he wants because in Kyle's mind, which again, more times than not, he's right, but he dials it up for you. It's a layup. Here, just take this.
Yes.
When you are a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo coming from New England, you know, that offense was different. You know, it was more spread out. Yep. It was more, you know, okay, I can kind of just read this concept here and I get the ball.
Not a ton of shifts, not 8,000 shifts.
Not shifts. Yeah. I think the 49ers offense is very, very, very specific.
Yeah.
To executing. And if one thing goes off, then it's kind of hard, especially for Jimmy to be like, okay, let me be able to overcome this. Yeah. So maybe in a different system where he has just more options and a little bit more freedom, like he did, you know, in 2017 coming to the 49ers, like he did even, I say like he did last game, but I don't count that whatever happened that game because, I mean, it wasn't great from an efficiency standpoint from Jimmy Garoppolo. You expect him to do better than that moving forward. But, you know, he came in, the game plan wasn't for him. This game plan was for a trade. Like, he just got a playbook like a week ago. So I'm not going to knock him on anything, but I'd say some of the throws, it was good to see him at least try, right? Yeah. Whether he connected or not, it was like he's pushing the ball down the field. Love to see that from Jimmy Garoppolo because I did see somebody earlier say in the playoffs, people was, you know, they're starting to stack the box against the 49ers and limit the run. Well, if Jimmy Garoppolo was taking shots down the field, which he threw 2 go routes to Brandon Ayuk, he threw another one down the left sideline of Ayuk, which was actually a really good ball. Like, if he's doing that, I think it will kind of help open up things offensively. But is it that freedom? Is that freedom going to continue? Or is it just like, hey, just go out there, play ball because we didn't game plan for you. And then, all right, we're going to put this game plan back and that restricts who you potentially could be. So, you know, there is that aspect of it for Jimmy G.
Yeah, I just want to go back. 2017, what he was saying, like he felt that was the best he played and he felt he didn't know the offense yet. So his best, I mean, he hadn't torn his ACL yet, but his best period was before he learned the offense. In those 5 games, he threw for 293 yards, 334, 381, 242, and 292. He never does that anymore. And if you remember, so he comes back the next year, he had to learn the offense. It was bad. He tore his ACL. It was gone. Comes back the next year, and he has that 5-pick practice. And everyone's thinking, oh, my God, he's not good. And so they go run heavy. They have this whole run heavy offense. Mostert's great. They ride Mostert to the Super Bowl. And they've pretty much been doing that for like the last 3-4 years. But what Jimmy was saying was, I was better before that. I never got a chance to go back and do that. And now he's back in that situation. Now I wonder, if we need Jimmy to throw the ball down the field, basically, for him to be a Super Bowl quarterback. Kyle, maybe he's Kyle who's like, don't do it. I don't trust you. You suck. I don't know. But it's interesting. Like Jimmy's saying, hey, let me cook. I don't know.
I think Kyle is very, again, he's
micromanager.
He's a micromanager.
But look, you got McDaniel in Miami being like, Tua, you're a baller. Be confident. Have fun. Let's throw. And then you got Kyle in Santa Clara being like, Jimmy, if you throw one fucking interception, I'm handing off the rest of the day.
Though, what? Right? Like Kyle and McDaniel, just listening to them talk, the vibe about them, they're different. They feel so much different. And I think we see that with, Miami, just in the sense of how he kind of, talks about his players. Oh, man, yeah, the most accurate quarterback I've ever seen. You don't hear Kyle say anything about his players, like, to kind of instill that level of confidence in them.
I think you need to do that stuff for a quarterback. I mean, I think quarterbacks' egos are fragile, and I think their egos are important to the organization. Like, you don't need to be taking your quarterback down a peg. You need to be the guy being like, you're the best, dude. I think. I mean, that's what Harbaugh
Jim
did.
Harbaugh, everybody was the best.
Yo, Alex Smith, you're the best. Colin is the best athlete, the best. That's what he did. And I mean, that's what Pete Carroll did. And Richard Sherman and KJ Wright were upset that he was held to a different standard. Russell Wilson, he's a quarterback. You kidding? Yes, he's held to a different standard.
Remember before the game?
Yep. Yes. So I'd like
Jim
to see Harbaugh
a little bit more of that from Kyle, the shoulder players, and it's just like, let's go, let's run, like, and it's just like that was cool,
It does, because it means I'm Jim Harbaugh and I believe in you. That goes along, and I'm showing it in front of the whole world. Kyle is like, I'm Kyle Shanahan and I'm skeptical. Let's see what you got. It's just, I think it would help, especially the young quarterbacks. Matt Ryan thrived one way or another. I mean, in spite of you, with your support, but the young quarterbacks, Jimmy, he might really benefit from you being like, you know what, Jimmy, I think you're a great quarterback. He can't bring himself to lie, I guess. You got to lie. You got to pretty much lie. Mac Daddy D says the Niners are the worst sitcom on TV.
For who?
I like it. I think it's
the best sitcom. Like, our numbers on Locked On 49ers is doing excellent.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
Hey, ask the people on social, ask the TV people, anytime they bring up the 49ers, the ratings, the clicks, the views on social media when they put a clip out there, it is the best sitcom out there.
And, people think like, oh, the Niners don't like, Grant, or they don't like this type of coverage. I don't look at it that way. I think the way they look at it is, look at all these views that these Niners content creators get. That means that we're really hot. And I bet you they can sell more advertising. Just look at all these views about people talking about my team. It's almost like the Cowboys effect. You know what I'm saying? It's a good thing to be talked about. I think Jed understands that. All of a sudden, his advertisers are paying him more money because he's hot. Smack Jones says the Niners listen to you. After you and your pop said it's a lack of remorse and support to Trey from the team, they posted a picture of all the players showing him love on Instagram. You the GOAT. Hey, man, I'm just trying to be quality control. I'm not trying to tear people down. I'm trying to help. I'm just trying to give suggestions. So I'm glad they took that one because I think it meant something to Trey. Flav says, I feel like Kyle Shanahan is scared to fully back a quarterback because then if a quarterback fails, it's on him and not the quarterback. Now I agree with that. He needs to call plays as if he is a top 10 quarterback and see if they step up because we know playing scared don't work. I agree with all that. There's something about Kyle where he likes, I think his dad too, he likes having a scapegoat. You got to have a scapegoat to keep yourself employed. And it's too bad. It's the quarterback. But as I said, the quarterback's ego matters. It matters. Kirk Cousins took off with Sean McVay. Just saying. Anyway, let's get back to our show. Croc, do the 49ers have the best defense in the entire league?
Man, okay, so yes, through 2 games they do.
Wow.
Now the tough thing is through those 2 games, you played one game in the monsoon, and then you played the other game, Geno Smith, and he's scared to push the ball down the field.
Yes.
But in the sense of being able to execute outside of a blown coverage, right? I thought the 49ers defense has played extremely well. And if you look at how they're built, I think this is something that can be sustainable. Now, again, is there going to be a game where maybe, let's say Russell Wilson, right? Let's say he throws for 320 yards. Like, I could kind of see that. Actually, I don't see that. Not with, especially if Jerry Jeudy's out. If it's just Courtland Sutton.
Is Jerry Jeudy out?
He did not practice yesterday.
they're screwed. Okay.
So I don't know. It sound from early reports it was like day to day. We'll see.
Okay.
But that's not good for Denver in the passing game. But again, you will know where they are, right? Especially in a couple of weeks because you got the Rams coming up. A couple of weeks after that, you're going to end up having the Kansas City Chiefs a few weeks later or next month sometime, whenever that is. But right now, I would say through 2 weeks, 49ers, their defense, they're getting after it. They're deep. They're loaded. They're good at every level. There's front end, second level with the linebackers. They're flying around. My brother's here. He's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but he's watching the games when he's like, man, this guy 54. I'm like, bro, that's Fred Warner. And he kind of knows who they are, but he doesn't like know their numbers and stuff. But he's like, man, like the guy with the double arm braces, like, man, that guy's flying around. So 49ers have linebackers, like they're getting after it. And then this back end, if you keep getting this out of Hufanga, and again, we'll see how sustainable it is. But it'll be hard to find a defense that will be. I don't want to say it'll be hard to find 5 teams that have a better defense than the 49ers. I'll say that.
Because what I'm seeing right now is like they're dominating, and they haven't faced a good quarterback yet, but they haven't even gotten pressure yet. They're not bringing pressure. They're not getting a bunch of sacks, and they're dominating. So once the pass rush kicks in, which it will, more than Bosa is what I'm saying. Bosa's great. Someone else is going to get hot eventually. This defense is going to be even better. Like Drake Jackson hasn't even been a factor yet. They're giving him about 15 snaps a game. I'm sure by week 13, he'll be playing a whole lot more. It'll be different. So I think this defense has even potential to get better. My only question right now is the interior. Armstead's hurt. They say he's going to come back on Sunday, but like he and Kinlaw haven't made an impact yet, although they've played their position, done their job, stopped the run. That's my only question because right now it's hard to find any questions with this defense.
Yeah, their health is something that can be a factor, but even then, man, you had Kevin Givens come in and have like 4 tackles for loss.
He's a hell of a player. Gets better every year. I like him.
I just saw somebody in the chat say that we trashed the team. That's why everybody listens to us. But I think right now we're bigging the 49ers defense up.
I picked him to win the Super Bowl, and I'm not backing off him just yet. I mean, this team is really good. And again, if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to do what he said and like play like 2017 and push the ball down the field, like I'm open-minded, man. I'm starting to feel like I might have been a little hard on Jimmy and that Kyle's a little culpable on this. And if he could just let Jimmy do his thing, he might actually be better. So I'm open-minded on this team. I'm just saying. I feel like I was a little hard on Jimmy. And I feel like, I kind of fall into Kyle's thing where it's the quarterback's fault. It's the quarterback's fault. No, Kyle, man, come on. It's you sometimes. You're a good coach, man. You can do this. I think you have the best. Everyone says you have the best team in the league. Make it happen. But I think there's about 4 or 5 coaches in the league that could win the Super Bowl with this roster. And a lot of people think you're one of those 4 or 5 coaches. So again, let's see it, bud. It's not like you have a competitive disadvantage with your roster. You got the horses. Let's see it. Big Tone 707 says Trey versus Jimmy. LOL. You can't really win unless your name is Joe or Steve. That's the thing. They should draft a quarterback named Joe or Steve. It would make everything easier. They have Alex and Flowers dialed up, and they call it Capper pick. Yeah, man, it's tough. If you're not a Hall of Famer right away, Niner fans are gonna heckle you like you're at the Apollo, pretty much. Double B Studio says, who can possibly have it better than us? Nobody. Do you think Harbaugh gets a kick out of watching the Niners like go through turmoil? Do you think he like watching from Detroit, like, or he's just focused? I don't know.
You said Harbaugh?
Harbaugh.
I don't know. I feel like Harbaugh's in like his own world.
He probably is. Yeah.
He kind of Harbaugh, Nick Bosa. I don't know. I just feel like they're not here. They're physically
That's
here.
trtrue. I know what you mean.
But their minds are like somewhere else. I don't know.
Did you see
thinking about unicorns and all type of other stuff? So
did you see Steph? What's her name? Steph.
Comedy. Yeah, Steph. Yeah, that was one of the funniest things I've seen.
It was so perfect, man. So good. Yeah. Josh Wyatt
even
says
the deep side.
So good. I wish I could have done that. She killed that. Josh Wyatt says if Jimmy Garoppolo pushes down the field, it opens up the middle, resulting in less 5-yard picks. Who cares if it gets picked deep? Underthrown deep balls also cause PI. I agree, man. Thank you.
And he reaped the benefits of that last game. 2 pass interference calls.
To his credit, he was actually throwing the ball down the field. So I'm actually thinking maybe there is a Jimmy 2.0, and maybe Kyle's finally taking the shackles off of him or whatever. Oh, my biggest question with Jimmy now is, dude, can you stay healthy? Because if you're going to push the ball down the field like that, the team has a chance. So now you got to play the whole freaking year like you did in 2019. And you got to hit the big throw to Sanders down the middle at the very end. So see. And that's all the more reason to keep throwing now. Because it's like, okay, you're a bad 3-point shooter. Shoot the shot. 5 times a game. So you'll improve because you're going to have to shoot it in game 7. So do it a lot now. That's all I'm saying. This is the most positive Niners talk I've seen from Grant. Well, it's Croc, man. He brings it out of me. Vincent, thank you. Josh Olivas says the Bills being this hyped 2 weeks into the season can hurt them later on. I'm okay with the defense flying in the radar for a little while. Yeah, I feel you on that.
Bills are going to be good regardless, man. When you have a quarterback that plays like Josh Allen, like, you're going to be good regardless. You know, and that's why people talk about Super Bowl windows right now. Super Bowl windows always open when you got a quarterback that's legit.
Hell yeah. Flav says, seriously, Grant, optimism looks good on you. I'm a very optimistic, positive person. Why would people say anything? That Kay Adams called me a bitter pundit. What? Me? Never. You kidding? Man. All right. All right. I got last question. Will the 49ers beat the Broncos this weekend?
Yeah. 49ers are favorite right now on the road. They're 1.5, point and a half favorites. I've talked about it. Like, I'm more confident with the 49ers week in and week out than with Trey Lance, right? And I have all these expectations of Trey Lance moving forward. But we're talking about right now, you got Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that increases the odds each week of being the favorite and being the team that can legit beat anybody out there. So, I say 49ers beat Denver. The scary thing is just Russell Wilson, right? Because he's just been the boogeyman.
Yeah.
But, man, you get George Kittle back. You got Debo out there, Ayuk. I mean, I think the 49ers, they take this one. I wouldn't be surprised if 49ers win by 10 points.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Niners because of the 2 Ds. Debo and defense. That's his team. The 2 Ds, double Ds. Debo and defense. As long as Debo's healthy and the defense is playing elite, it's hard to beat the 49ers, no matter who the quarterback is. So, I mean, I don't really see like Jimmy Garoppolo losing the game or pooping the bed, as it were. I'm trying to be PG in the morning. I don't see that happening. He doesn't need to, unless he wants to go out there and just throw it 50 times. But we'll see. I'm very curious to see, like, free and easy Jimmy, contract year Jimmy, doesn't really know the offense Jimmy, hasn't been here all offseason Jimmy. Is that the better Jimmy? I'm interested. Could be interesting.
All right, man. Go put y'all money on the 49ers, man. Minus 1.5. I'm taking that.
David Sir says, I'm torn. I do want Jimmy and the Niners to ball out, but at the same time, worried he might be back next year to create the same drama all over again.
I don't think he'll be back next year.
Anything can happen.
I have my theories as to why, but
tell me.
Say that for
tell me. I want to know.
I think it'll be more so of what we've seen. To this point, I think we know what Jimmy is, right? And there'll be people, I got one person in here that keeps commenting on it, but I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a good quarterback. I think with him, you're going to win for sure 10. Like, I feel like that's the floor, right? Yeah. 10, I think you can win up to 13 games, even this year, even after losing week 1, right? Because you have Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback.
Yep.
But in the biggest of moments, again, and I've talked about it earlier, I just feel like I know what he is and what he isn't, and I feel like the 49ers will lose in the playoffs the same way that they've lost. Where you're going to blame, Kyle Shanahan's play calling, and Jaquiski Tartt didn't drop this interception, but ultimately it's going to come down to, did your quarterback make a play when you need it? And the answer is going to be no. And you're just going to keep doing that every year. So since I think that way, I think, he's going to play well enough to go earn some money somewhere else, but eventually you got to figure out how to get over that hump. And I just don't know if it's Jimmy Garoppolo. So maybe it's not Trey Lance. We'll find out. Yeah. But I know what Jimmy is. Now, I could be wrong. And again, we'll see.
If he wins the Super Bowl, if he wins the Super Bowl and makes a play to win the Super Bowl, they'll give him a 5-year contract extension. But again, we don't expect that.
And I would. If Jimmy did, I would give him the 5-year contract extension.
Yes.
My thing is, I just want the 49ers to win. Yes. I don't care about who's that quarterback and this guy and that guy. Right. Like, I have felt like Trey, if he gets to where you need him to be, and that's a big if, because you don't know. But if he does, you got a better chance. But if Jimmy showed, I can do it. And look, Croc, like I'm able to make the plays that you said that I wasn't capable of doing in that moment, good on good, great versus great. If he does that, then sign him 5 more years and great, let's go.
Put him in the Hall of Fame, man. I will say I was wrong. No problem. What I wanted to say is the way we look at the Niners with Jimmy is kind of like I keep going to basketball because basketball is like more inevitable. Like the Jazz with Donovan Mitchell, they might be the 1 seed every year. They're like, oh man, this team is great. Nah, they're gonna break down in the playoffs because Donovan Mitchell isn't a point guard and can't get a shot off and isn't quite good enough and he can't be your lead player. And you prove it every freaking year and you eventually have to blow it up. And like there's teams like that in the NBA where it's like you have a level. You might win 50 games. You might sell tickets. You might have playoff series, but you're never going to win. And you need to blow it up. And I feel like this is the Niners' last chance. They've had 4 years to prove that they can do it. You better win freaking Super Bowl this year. Otherwise, you need to change something. And the change is Trey Lance, Danny Gray, something different. So that's what I feel like. Jimmy, you're Donovan Mitchell. Pretty much. F.U. Jobu says, I do it. If the Niners can put together some wins and be in a good spot at the trade deadline, what piece do you think is the most critical to add to go all in? So far, the interior offensive line is doing good. Let's see how they do against Aaron Donald in 2 weeks, but that would be a spot. See where Jimmy Ward's at. Maybe another tight end to take a little work away from Kittle. I don't know. I mean, this thing's a running back. How about a freaking running back? There's options.
Yeah. That running back position, I don't know. That's a strange one.
They all get hurt.
I don't think I've seen anything like this where your guy just can't finish a year. Like, we just haven't seen it. I think maybe Carlos Hyde. I think Carlos Hyde did.
Carlos Hyde. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just, they're not really prioritizing durability with running backs, although what running back is durable? Carlos Hyde. Daniel Garcia says, does IU get more looks this weekend? That near one-hander in the end zone was almost the play of the year so far. Yeah, I think it's about time that Jimmy starts targeting Ayuk the way he did Sanders. I mean, they're pretty much running the similar routes in the same parts of the field.
It's interesting to me. I see a Rams person in the chat, and it's like, man, they got the 49ers. They can talk, but
Niner game
it's like Kyle be kicking the Rams' ass. Like, okay, y'all got one.
Yeah.
And it was a big one.
It's true. Like Kyle kicks the last 7. It was by 3 points.
For this person to be the Ramala person or whatever. For him, that's a weird name. But for him to talk the way he does about Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, it's like, do they kick your ass all the time? Like, y'all got one. That was good. That was a great win.
Yeah.
But you can't talk crazy about 49ers situation when like in a couple weeks they're gonna kick the Rams' ass. Like, they kick your ass.
Yeah. Niner game Wolfcat says that was good. Niners because of JP and D. JP and D. I like that. The double D team. NC Niner fan says no Super Bowl, right Flav, INT, and pick 6 in the NFC Championship. Ooh. I don't think Niner fans need to root against Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, he's the best you got. Unless you think Brock Purdy's better.
Why would you root against him? Why would you root against your starting quarterback?
Why? Ramon says Mitchell on Cavaliers now, but good reference. Yeah, I know. They had to blow it up. They eventually blew it up, like the Niners will eventually have to do unless Jimmy Garoppolo wins the Super Bowl. Frank Gore is durable, which was the most strangest thing of all time considering his college career. We started off the show with like borderline negative conspiracy theories because that's what I like to do, and ended up making it the most positive show ever. I didn't see that coming, but it was fun. I thought this was a good show. Croc has that effect. Josh says Tom Sula would know what to do. Is he still in the league? He's somewhere.
I feel like he's got to be somewhere. He's a good D-line coach. So.
Is he back in NFL Europe coaching? I gotta know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here, Croc. I always appreciate your time. I know you're extremely busy.
Yeah. All good,
Have a great weekend. See you guys.
Peace.